want to welcome you all. So good evening, everyone. My name is Attorney Robyn McCoy. I'm President of Black Women Lawyers Association of Michigan. And I want to thank you all for coming out today. I want to thank Detroit University Law School, the staff, and Dean Jelani Jefferson at Zoom for agreeing to host this event. I was telling Dean at Zoom, the last time I was here was they had Paul Butler, who was doing the book, he did the book Chokehold, which I don't know if you guys have read, anybody here has read Chokehold, that's a really good book. And I want to thank we have our distinguished panel of experts here, and I want to thank Black Women Lawyers Association of Michigan. We have our board here. We have Delicia and Tanisha. We have some other board members that should be arriving. So I'm just going to give you some background of Black Women Lawyers Association of Michigan, and then kind of talk about the purpose, and then I'll turn it over to our moderators. So Black Women Lawyers Association of Michigan was founded on July 28, 1992, and incorporated on March 25, 1993, out of the necessity to promote reform in the law, to facilitate the administration of justice, and to uphold the highest standard of integrity in the legal profession. Black Women Lawyers Association of Michigan works to accomplish this goal by promoting programs that enhance civic education through law and promotion of scholarship and opportunity for Black women at all levels of education. Black Women Lawyers Association of Michigan ventures to cultivate a spirit of acceptance, cordiality, fellowship, and empowerment among members of the bar and the community at large. Black Women Lawyers Association of Michigan focuses on professional advancement, presence in civic and public offices of women lawyers, and the cultivation of women's rights. Black Women Lawyers Association of Michigan is headquartered in the Metro Detroit area and is a nonprofit organization under the state laws of Michigan. As outgoing president, because I've been president for 2 years, my term will be ending soon, in June, I would like to welcome you to this program. The Black Women Lawyers Association of Michigan is a bar association committed to uplifting Black women lawyers, social justice lawyers, law students, aspiring lawyers, and members of the community at large. We endeavor to ensure that there are Black women lawyers in positions of leadership in all facets of society, including the judiciary, local, state, and national government, minority and majority-owned law firms, major corporations, and nonprofit organizations. We further strive to work collaboratively with other bar associations in Michigan and the nation at large to ensure justice, equality, and fairness for everyone. Black Women Lawyers Association of Michigan membership is open to all attorneys, judges, law students who practice, reside, teach, or attend law school in the state of Michigan. Black Women Lawyers Association of Michigan has general body meetings every third Sunday of the month from September to June at 3 o'clock. Right now we're virtual. We're committed to mentoring law students and aspiring attorneys. We have educational programming designed to help our membership enhance the legal profession, the legal and professional skills, and or become aware of issues that are of significance to us and the community at large. We also have educational and social events. As far as today, we have this Harriet Tubman Social Justice Forum on racism and sexism in the law and society, the People's Law School, Pathways to Law School, What to Do When Stopped by the Police, and our annual cocktail sip fundraiser. In the wake of the murders of Tyree Nichols, Patrick Leola, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, Ora Rosser, Ahmaud Arbery, Daunte Wright, and others, we're committed to seeing policies and legislation on the local, state, and national level that are put into place to ensure that the lives of Black men, women, and children are protected in society. We're also committed to seeing policies and legislation that ensures everyone's right to vote is protected. We welcome you to join our organization and assist with our objectives as we continue to lift each other up as we climb and strive for excellence in our profession as sisters in the law. You can find out more about our organization by going to blackwomenlawyers.org or send us an email at bwlammichigan@gmail.com. Now, as far as the program for today, Hosea 4:6 says that my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, and knowledge is power. So racism. What is racism? Racism is a systematic oppression of a racial group to the social, economic, and political advantage of another. A political or social system founded on racism and designed to execute its principles. What is sexism? Sexism is prejudice or discrimination based on sexual, especially discrimination against women, behavior, conditions, or attitudes that foster stereotypes or social roles based on sex. Racism and sexism in the law. The legal profession is still a predominantly white, male-dominated profession. The overwhelmingly majority of lawyers are still white, 81%. The percentage of black lawyers is nearly unchanged over the past decade. In 2012, the survey found that 4.7% of all lawyers, black lawyers is 4.7%. Today the number is 4.5%, so we haven't had much of a change. That's far less than the share of black people in the U.S. population, which is 13.4%. Hispanics, however, are still very underrepresented in the legal profession. There's a survey that found that 5.8% of all lawyers are Hispanic, even though the U.S. populations for Hispanics is 18.5%. The share of Asian American lawyers in the profession is now almost the same as the share of Asians in the U.S. population. The survey is 5.5% of all lawyers are Asian American, while the U.S. population is 5.9%. And by sources, it's the ABA survey from 2022. Gender. More than a third of all lawyers are women, and the number is growing. 10 years ago, 33% of all lawyers were female. Today, it's 38%. In other words, the percentage of women in the profession is growing at roughly 0.5% per year. Now, a little bit of background for me. As a young child attending a predominantly white Catholic school, Father Gabriel Richard, Fighting Irish, shout out to Fighting Irish, out of Ann Arbor. My parents bathed me in Afrocentricity, Afrocentric consciousness, books, classes, dance, dress, hair. They wanted to prepare me for battle in this American apartheid system. As I attended the University of Chicago, another PWI, predominantly white institution, my mother, an Air Force veteran, nurse, and graduate of the University of Michigan, handed me a copy of Dr. Francis Cress Westling's The ISIS Papers, The Keys to Colors. As I attended the University of Michigan Law School, another PWI, predominantly white institution, my father, a lawyer, the grandson of sharecroppers and a Pentecostal minister and First Lady. My father was also one of the first recipients of the Upper Bound Scholarship, graduating from Western Michigan University in 2.5 years, and receiving his master's degree in political science from Western University and his master's degree in education from the University of Michigan, and his law degree from Detroit College of Law, which is now Michigan State College of Law. He implored me to study hard and graduate. And you gotta remember, at the time I was going to Michigan, I went to University of Michigan Law School. We were in the midst of the affirmative action battle. The Supreme Court was looking at our grades, so there was a lot of pressure there. So I graduated law school. I've had an experience, I've been a college professor teaching law and the African American experience at EMU, and I've been providing free educational programming for my colleagues and youth and the general public from day one, because again, Hosea 4:6 says, "My people perish for lack of knowledge, and knowledge is power." Now, racism in the law. There are black judges and lawyers being racially profiled in this state and around this country. For black law students and black college students, affirmative action is basically on its way out. I mean, you can read the tea leaves. The prison industrial complex is alive and well. The school-to-prison pipeline is in full force. Police brutality is rampant. Racism in society. My law firm, as I'm sure some of the other lawyers that are here today can attest, is flooded with calls on a monthly basis from black men, women, and children, other people of color, women who are facing oppression in the classroom, workplace, houses, and hospitals. The call to action is to bring together this panel of distinguished guests to gain the knowledge needed to arm yourselves to combat racism and sexism in the law and society as either the person experiencing the oppression, the ally in the position to help stop the oppression, or the oppressor to gain insight to unlearn the racism or sexism which not only causes pain to the person that is oppressed, but also generates a legacy of sickness and disease in our nation and in our world. So, at turn it over to our honored and esteemed Judge Tracy Green, who is going to lead us all and lift every voice and sing.
Good evening to all of you. Just a brief point of privilege. First, thank you so much, Attorney McCoy, for the invitation. She did say that I'm going to lead, not perform, lead as in corporate singing, the beloved song, Lift Every Voice and Sing. It's also commonly known as the Negro National Anthem. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with it, please look it up. Understand its social and historical significance and its rich legacy, aside from the fact that it is a beautiful work. Lyrics by James Weldon Johnson, and his brother composed the music. I believe that his name is, if I can recall, James Rosamond Johnson. Look it up. All right, we'll be singing the first and third verses. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the misty skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the darkness has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. They sing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, God who has brought us thus far on the way, thou who has by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadow beneath thy hand, may we forever stand. True to our God, true to our native land. Give yourself a
Thank you, Tracy. So at this time, I am going to introduce, most of you know, Dean Jelani Jefferson Exum. So she's the Dean and Philip J. McElroy Professor of Law at the University of Detroit Mercy Law School. and is a nationally recognized expert in sentencing law and procedure. She is a member of editorial board of the Federal Sentencing Reporter. Dean Jefferson Exum is a graduate of Harvard Law School and Harvard College. Prior to joining the Detroit Mercy Law faculty, she was an associate dean for diversity and inclusion and professor of the law at the University of Toledo College of Law, an associate professor at the University of Kansas School of Law, and a visiting associate professor at the University of Michigan Law School. Dean Jefferson Exum has been a Forrester Fellow and instructor in legal writing at Tulane Law School. She has taught constitutional law, criminal procedure, sentencing, and race and American law and comparative criminal procedure. Dean Jefferson Exum writes mainly in the areas of federal sentencing, policing, with a focus on racial justice. So without further ado, I give you Dean Exum.
Thank you very much for that introduction, and welcome to everyone. It is really my pleasure to welcome you all today to the University of Detroit Mercy School of Law. We're so happy to have you all here and to be able to host this program together with the Black Women Lawyers Association of Michigan. So as it was said, I'm Joanna Jefferson Exum. It's my pleasure to be dean here at Detroit Mercy Law School. Here we really pride ourselves on creating an inclusive environment where we can have an uplifting community that supports everyone regardless of their background, and so that everyone can really thrive as we seek to educate the complete lawyer, which is our tagline, and I think we do that very well. But the truth is that there's no space in America that's actually free from racism and sexism and other sorts of oppression. Unfortunately, oppressive structures are embedded in our institutions and in our social constructs. So many of us in our own ways work to dismantle these systems, but doing so takes time and it really takes intentionality. That's why I think programs like this are so important. They give us the space to talk about our experiences, to come together so that we can support one another as we work together to both weather discrimination, which we often find ourselves having to do, but also to fight against it and to work to build new systems that are less oppressive. I've certainly experienced my fair share of racism and sexism, both as a student and as a professional. So I personally know that it is especially important that as Black women specifically, we recognize the unique form of discrimination that we face due to the intersections of presumptions about our gender and bias against our racial identity. And this is true for other women of color as well. And by the way, I should say, if you're not familiar with the term intersectionality, this is, Attorney McCoy already gave you something to look up. This is another one. Look up Professor Kimberly Crenshaw. This is her area of expertise. And you can learn about how when identities come together, it actually creates sort of a new system of oppression and bias, and also opportunities for success. So when you face such discrimination, whether it's in the form of macroaggression, so things that are really deliberate in your face, out in the open, or microaggressions, those kind of seemingly little pokes at you that didn't feel quite right, but you knew it was there, and those things build up. For students, whether it's from classmates, from school employees, or for all of us from professional colleagues, it's important that you seek the support of those who will affirm your experience and help you to navigate responses. Speaking about diversity law, here we have an assistant dean of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. This was a new position that I created when I started as dean. Her name is Courtney Griffin, so she's here to be a great resource. Also, our dean of student affairs, Aisha Humphrey, for students can be a resource, and of course even myself. And so, regardless of whether you're a student here or not, most institutions have some form of processes, procedures to place formal complaints and to raise formal allegations of discrimination or identity-based harassment. So those avenues are always an option. But whether you're in a situation where you feel like you want to take those formal routes or not, I just really can't stress enough how important it is to find community and to find allies. There's no need to endure things alone. Because there are so many, unfortunately, who have experienced and you'll find who have experienced similar things. And so you'll hear that from the panelists today, I have no doubt about that. So you need to find people who you can talk to, but mostly people who can really affirm what's happened to you. people who can let you know, no, you're not crazy to have felt what you felt. You know, it seemed like a small statement, a small incident, but it actually was big. Yes, it was inappropriate. Yes, you're right to feel the way that you do. We then all have to make our own individual personal choices and decisions about which situations we want to use our energy on to make change, to speak up. And sometimes we might frankly feel that we're tired and that we don't want to do that at that given moment, and that's okay too. At Detroit Mercy Law, we're working to have an environment where everyone can thrive, but we also want to equip students, certainly, in our larger community with the network that we need, that we all need, to meet the challenges that we'll face both inside and outside of school. This program is one of those efforts, which is why I'm so happy to have it here today, to have these sorts of discussions on navigating the ills of society that for far too long and too often have tried to hold us back. And I say try because I'm being intentional, because as I look around this room, certainly look at our panelists, look at so many of you, I see successful, accomplished women, Black women and women of many backgrounds who are uplifting others and making space for others to have a voice and to be protected. So despite racism, sexism, any other oppressive structure, we have a history, a present, and also a future of overcoming and thriving and bettering our world. So I'm sure that you're going to hear all those sentiments echoed today in our discussion. I look forward to this program and to what everyone has to contribute, and thank you all very much for being here.
We have some judges here. We have Judge Brew. If you could raise your hand, Judge Brew from the 36th District Court. We have Judge Deborah Bledsoe Ford. We have Judge Green, who loves and lifts every voice and sings. I know Justice Bernstein is on his way from the Michigan Supreme Court, so he'll be coming from Lansing. Do we have any other judges? I don't want to miss anybody. Any other elected officials? Okay. So at this time, I'm going to introduce our panelists. And I'm going to start with Attorney Saida Davison. If you could raise your hand so everybody knows who you are. Okay. So one of Saida Davison's first employers was asked to describe her early in her career. He responded by stating, "I think anyone can represent an overdog, but it's not just anybody who can capably represent an underdog." As illustrated by her career path, Saida has made it her mission to live up to this description ever since. Saida represented survivors of intimate partner violence at Lakeshore Legal Aid, and then spent several years at the Sharp Law Firm representing workers in employment discrimination cases. She joined the ACLU of Michigan as senior staff attorney in 2020. Saida has a BA from the University of Michigan, Dearborn, and is a cum laude graduate of Thomas Cooley Law School. Recognizing that advocacy is not limited to litigation, Saida also serves on the board of directors for affirmations in the Oakland County Bar Association. Additionally, she has served on the Board of Commissioners for the State Bar of Michigan and continues her service on its Judicial Qualifications Committee. She was also recently appointed to the newly formed Commission on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the Michigan Judiciary. Additionally, Saida has written articles for multiple publications and served as managing editor for the American Bar Association's magazine TYL. She is proud to have been recognized by a variety of organizations for not only her legal abilities, but also for her leadership, integrity, and commitment to pro bono work. So, next we have Zanelle Brown. I consider Zanelle, she's like a mentor of mine. She just makes things, you call her if you have an issue and she just says a few words and it's like, oh, hey, you know. So Zanelle is an author, mediator, court leader, a certified diversity professional. She will be retiring soon from the Third Circuit Court, unfortunately sad. She has served as executive court administrator and as friend of the court. She has approached her work through the lens of inclusion, developing a family mediation curriculum, addressing issues of the never married parents, spearheading outreach to serve self-represented litigants, and training attorneys and court professionals on leadership and various diversity, equity, and inclusion topics. She currently serves on the Michigan Judicial Council, chairing the Race and Social Equity Work Group. She is also on the State Bar of Michigan Diversity Advisory Committee. She is on faculty on the Michigan Judicial Institute and Institute of Court Management. Dubbed the Champion of Inclusion, she has received the Sojourner Truth Award from the National Association of Negro Business and Professional Women's Clubs, the Geraldine Bledsoe Ford Award from the Women Lawyers Association of Michigan, the Dean Robert B. Gegg Award from the American Bar Association, and the Perkins Award from the National Association for Court Management. Zanelle enjoys speaking to aspiring leaders at fireside chats and coffee clatches. Her book, Coffee and Conversations, Inclusion and Belonging, is her invitation to the legal community to stir up good conversation and meaningful action to promote diversity and inclusion. So, Zanelle. And last, but finally not least, we have sister-in-law, warrior lawyer, Lillian Diallo. I've been practicing 22 years, and she helps us lawyers. I do criminal defense. We're having heavy cases, murder cases, rape cases. I'm like, Lillian, I need some help. I need some guidance. Tell me. So she was Diallo. Lillian was born and raised in Detroit. She has been practicing law for over 2 decades. Most of the time has been spent representing clients who are marginalized and charged with some of the most atrocious acts known to man. Lillian is one of the go-to attorneys for high-profile and complex litigation. She has litigated all over the state of Michigan and federal court, zealously representing clients. In 2011, she opened her own law firm known as the Legal Warriors PLLC with the slogan, battle-tested, battle-proven, and battle-ready. Okay, she got something for you. Lillian enjoys a reputation of being a fierce litigator all throughout the state, and she is the president of the Wayne County Criminal Defense Bar and has led and continues to lead 200 plus lawyers through the COVID crisis and beyond. So, Lillian, let's just... I want to give a shout out to my partner on the left, Attorney Ed Taylor. He's a Detroit alum, class of 1996. And so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our other board members, our Vice President, Delicia Taylor Coleman, and our Parliamentarian and Detroit Mercy alum, Tanisha Davis. So just everybody get ready for this.
And briefly, before we start asking questions, we did not coordinate our outfits. It works. So
Great minds think alike.
And we are sisters in the same sorority line, actually.
Yes, we are.
But if you don't mind, panelists, do you mind briefly just anything you want to just put out there in regards to our subject matter today, or do you want us to just jump into the questions?
So listen, I've been doing this for over 20 years, 2 decades. And one thing I know is there are spaces that people want to keep their spaces for whatever that reason is. Every microaggression, every macroaggression from women, men, black, white, kids, right here. But guess what? We still rise, right? So the one thing I want everybody to understand is, do not be afraid to ask a question, right? Do not act as if you know everything. I'm not for everybody. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and guess what? I'm not a politician, so it doesn't matter to me. But one thing that does really matter to me is inclusion and dealing with the, I don't want to say least than, less than, but the people that are so marginalized that nobody listens, right? They're telling you, I didn't do this, but every time they come before a court, they say, well, you had to do something. right? So, and I've done trials, like I said, all over the state. Things that just wrap your heart and your spirit, but you must be true to you. And what we have got to stop doing is microaggressioning each other. Young ladies, I'm talking to you right now, right? Listen to Mr. Yellow. Beauty fades, okay? All of these macroaggressions, microaggressions that sometimes we do to each other, it's not properly served, right? Because that does not help you get where you need to go in life. I am a black girl from Detroit City. I'm okay. But guess what this black girl from Detroit City did? Everybody talks about the criminal law, right? Did you know in 2022, I think September 30th, this black girl along with the law firm cracked qualified immunity, People versus David Jackson. We are litigating now in federal court. So you got to and worry about it because we can't be there. And I'm not a politician, right? But I'm trying to tell you, we have got to use our community. We are our community. And I am my sister's keeper. I don't keep foolishness, but I am my sister's keeper. And everybody else too, if I can. If I can help you, I can. But if I can't, I just won't try to hurt you. Thank you.
I'm going to pass on that.
Please don't make me say anything after that. Nothing but even prepared.
Truly. Well, I want to add really quickly to the point of asking questions. When you all do ask questions, the video camera will be off so you can feel comfortable in this space and asking whatever. If you don't want to say something out loud, you passed out some index cards, you can write your question down. We will come around and collect them, and we will project those questions to the panel.
And just getting started, we're going to ask you general questions in your experiences, and if you could just share with us, for all of us, specifically, just very generally, have you ever experienced racism or sexism? And how did you handle it? And if you could, what was the most recent, not specific, but time period? I mean, you can start from when you first recognized it or the most significant experience that you had with it. And specifically, obviously we were talking in the law, but if it's something else outside of that, say Macy's, being followed, you know, whatever it was, if you could share with us, please.
I'll start. The part that stands out for me is like when you're first starting out and you're not for sure of yourself as a lawyer, and you're getting reactions and you're trying to figure out, is it me or is it race, is it gender, what's going on? And I remember when I first came to the Wayne County Friendly Court, the encounter that I had there was like, first of all, the place was not some place that I felt was very welcoming of anybody. Didn't feel very inclusive of those that we were serving who looked like me. And then on the back side, I would, as an employee, that I was dealing with a white male who basically said things that led me to question, okay, so was he not really clued in on how you talk to people, or am I not viewed as a person? And having those different conversations there. And when, at that point, I wasn't an attorney. I had my law license, but I wasn't a practicing attorney. I had made a pit stop at the front of the court so I could go on and practice law. Didn't know I was going to stay there. And they posted the position for front of the court attorney. And this person came to me to let me know that I would not be getting the position. Although this person didn't have any title or authority over who got the position, but he came into my cubicle and began to tell me, this is the way that things work, and you're not in line to get this position. And going back to what we were taught in our house is that you have to work twice as hard to get half as much. So go home, study, and it's like, okay, so you know this family law stuff. You've been doing it forever. You've been a paralegal, the only black paralegal. at the time of the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office, you know this stuff. So let's go ahead and just take the test and do what you do. So took the test, he comes back, he makes another visit to say, well, just to let you know, I'm the top scoring male throughout this process. And he's a white man. And so I get the opportunity to let him know, well, I'm the top scoring candidate throughout this process. And so it's just like, that was like the karma in it. And it's like, so whatever you made up about me or what I was entitled to or whatever, you don't get the last call on that. And thankful, for the roots at home and the community of people who do believe in pouring to you. You get to elevate yourself. And then going through that experience, you know that the next 25 years is like, how can I bring some more? Who else needs to come to this table? Let's build a bigger table. Because as Robyn pointed out, nationally we're about less than 5% as far as African Americans who are in the law. And if you look at black women, it's about 2.5%. And a lot of that is because there's nobody who's opened the door, not anyone who said that you have the talent and you belong. So my role has been, if there isn't that there, I want to see if I can be that there, if I can open that door for you. I'm not there to sit as the owner. I'm there to make sure the door is open for women to come in, for black women to come in, for people of other races and ethnicities to come in, so we can have a more inclusive people community.
Awesome. Thank you. Great answer. Sorry.
Sure. So I am one of those people that when something like this happens to me, I stew on it for 3 days and then I come up with like a really good response when I'm laying in bed angry about it. But because your question asks about a time that I did something about it, I also have a story in Wayne County Family Court that I will share from when I worked at Legal Aid. So I was a brand new attorney. And the opposing party was a more experienced attorney, a white male, and the judge on our case was Judge Elder. And for those of you who don't know, Judge Elder is a Muslim woman judge who wears a hijab on the bench. I'm not Muslim, and I do not believe that she's Bangladeshi, although I could be wrong. And I remember after we met with her for our scheduling conference, this attorney and I went out into the hallway, and he says to me, well, you have an advantage in this case. And I, at this particular time, I like to do the, whatever do you mean? So I just said exactly that. Like, what do you mean advantage? Blink twice. Well, certainly your heritage. Well, what heritage do you think that I am, sir? Well, I mean, certainly your religion. Oh, well, what religion do you think that I am? And then finally, shut up. But that was like one of the only times that I was able to respond quickly and kind of make that person realize he was being stupid.
Good response. Good response. What about you?
So it just reminded me, 2003, so I was pregnant with my last child, thank you Jesus, she's a child. And so I was in front of the court. I will never forget it now that you guys said it, because I think I might have suppressed it. I had on this black little maternity thing with this big old pink bow, and I had that bow tied around my belly. I was looking like probably a ship. I didn't care, right? So the person I went up against, I represented, I believe, an Arabic client. And I went up against, at that time, the head of whatever, the State Bar of Michigan family law section, right? He was the whole package, right? And so he told me, you need to dismiss this case. I'm like, oh. And I'm like, okay, I'm still. So we go in and we litigate. Guess what? He had to pay me attorney fees. So that was number one, because when you have to bear down, you bear down, and you bear down with your knowledge, right? We don't have to do all that whooping and hollering. Just bear down with your knowledge. And the one that happened more recently to me was when I was in trial, not too long ago. And when I tell you that was the worst trial I have ever had to do in my life as far as pressure, it was an everyday you are a black woman. When we started the trial, before we even started the trial, the judge says, well, I don't need all that drama. I said, what do you mean drama? We're black people. Embrace who you are, first of all. We're expressive. That does not equate to drama. So you bust those little things out, those little microaggressions. And then when I responded to him, because I did respond, I don't believe in keeping things in. I don't know why. What comes up comes out. I've been counseled about that before. But when I, went back at him, he said, well, I don't know what that means. I said, well, I know what it means. And we, on this side, we're offended. And from there, it went on and on. So there was a note from the jury. Now, I am not the one to fool with in general, right? Because I have so much to do, but I don't play with people like that. We're not here to be played with. We're not children. We're not toys. We're not whimsical creatures that bat our eyes and all that other stuff. That's not this. I'm a lawyer. I happen to be a female, and I happen to be black. But this right here, this is a lawyer. So we go up to see the jury question. And so there was the prosecutor standing, here's the judge, prosecutor's here, co-counsel is here, I'm there. So, they let him read the question, and then when it came to me, I really could care less. He takes the note and he throws it at me. I said, excuse me, did you throw something at me? And we had a whole separate record after that, right? Where he had to apologize. And I'm not, we're just all people. And I'm a regular kind of people, right? But you have to call people out when it's time, right? Everything is not going to be a battle, but when you have to battle, you better be ready for it. And I believe we are ready now, right? We've gone through so much tribulation. This one right here, when COVID hit, we went to virtual, and we were in stakeholder meetings together. Do you know how great it is to have somebody in the room that's a power pack, where you can just sit back and you don't really have to overlook and do this or that and the other or feel like you don't belong? Because they're always going to tell you you don't belong, right? You don't tell me about where I belong, because here's the thing. Who makes the rules? Who makes the rules? So if you start something, right, be prepared to go all the way. Because we're real good where we're good, but we're also really, really bright and really smart, because we have to be. We don't get to pay. I didn't get into law school because I'm black. I didn't pass the bar because I was black. I passed the bar because I studied, studied some more, cried a whole lot, stayed up, cried more, but I passed the bar. And so for anybody in here that thinks you're not enough, I'm here to tell you, I don't care what color you are or what race or anything, you are enough as long as you don't try to put your thing on me. Because if you try to make your space my space, we're going to have a problem, right? But other than that, you belong, you are good at what you do, and just try to treat people the way you want to be treated. Now, if you don't, you never know what might happen to you, right? Because the person that you might need tomorrow is the one that you torched the day before, right? And one more thing, ladies, I want you to live today in such a manner that you make tomorrow jealous. Live your life today. Do you understand? Just today, and we'll worry about everything else later. Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to go to the next question. Thank you, ladies, for that. So, kind of in response to I think what all of you have said, I'm going to pull out another question here. How do you address sexism and racism in law or society without being defined as the angry black woman?
Be smart. Be smart. Just be you. You don't even have to respond to, all the rest of the stuff. Be you. Don't let them box you. That's how I do it, right? I know what they do almost more times than not, right? But they don't get that power over me. That's how I do it.
I've been in places where if I know that there's racism and sexism and there's gang screenplay, just get up and leave. And then I've been in places where there's been allies, white men, will redirect. I've been in places where someone has come in and tried to tell me what the strategic plan of the court is. And I was like, well, who informed you? Nobody has had a conversation with me. You don't know what our needs are. We haven't sat down and had a process. And then right then and there, at that point, the chief judge comes in and says, no, that's not how we're doing it. So it depends. You look at your circumstances and you have a box of tools. Like you said, this is not a unique circumstance, and it's not something that's just going to happen to you. Once you develop your tools, And you know when you may have to bat your eyes, or you may have to pop your neck, you may have to be the angry woman at the moment. You use what you have, and you make sure that you're using it to an advantage, not one that's going to disadvantage you in the long run.
Great, perfect. Anything to add, Simon?
Well, I feel that I shouldn't weigh in on this one because I'm not black.
Well, that's okay.
So,
You're still a woman. You're still a woman. A woman of color.
I just didn't want to overstep the question. You know, and honestly, I don't think I have this figured out as a woman of color. I think that I still am learning how to deal with things and learning how to respond, and I think it's just learning every time you respond. How could I have showed up there? I think most importantly too, like how do I show up in a way that doesn't damage my client while I'm trying to advocate for myself is something that you have to keep in the back of your mind. And it's finding that balance between advocating for yourself but also advocating for your client without doing harm.
You're absolutely correct with that. You truly have had
I hate that.
misfortune.
I mean, really, when you think about how
Once you start pushing back, then your client is the first to pay. And that's just regrettable as a criminal defense attorney. It's just the facts. As soon as you start pushing back, well, when was the last time, well, next time your client is late, your client literally walked in with you at 1 minute after. And it's just recognizing, Your Honor, if there's a problem with the way I'm advocating for my client, don't let it have my client have those repercussions. And like she said, every single day addressing that in a manner to protect yourself, but also your client. One of the questions from the audience, with political rhetoric attacking wokeness and appreciating the bleak irony, and this is verbatim, of usually white politicians abusing a term coined by black commentators in the 1930s, are you seeing efforts to roll back gains made by black or non-white women in the legal field? And how can we as students entering the profession protect and advance those gains? Ooh. That's a maybe we should have broke that one up. That's pretty heavy. So let's start with the first one, with in regards to the political rhetoric attacking wokeness. Anybody want to address that?
I don't know what that necessarily means. I think it's a talking point for certain people in certain rooms, right? What is this wokeness? You mean I'm aware? If that's what you're talking about, we're not on that level, right? So I don't even respond that way. I am who I am. And so the attacks are what the attacks are, right? But you got to be able to give it back in a way that you don't even have to raise your voice sometimes, right? You just know they have been filleted, and they know they've been filleted, right? No, really. So, and this whole wokeness and all that, we don't get into those kind of debates, because you do know the Bar Association I lead, right? So Wayne County Criminal Defense Bar, one of the biggest ones here, right? We can have those conversations. We've done it. Guess what? Most of my members are white. They don't really necessarily, I might not be their cup of tea, but if I'm fair and I'm trying to help everybody and not exclude somebody, we're good. So I don't know what
Either one of you?
So the question was
In regards to
the rhetoric.
the rhetoric, saying, well, we want to address the micro and macro aggressions and terms that are associated with that. How do you do it in such a way that, because the attack, and I specifically point to Florida and the Senate, and in regards to what he's doing in regards to the schools and those kind of things. What do you say in regards to those kind of things?
Before you answer, I did get a note that said it's kind of difficult to hear, so if everybody on the panel could just speak up a little bit, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we did turn on the fan because it was kind of hot.
So with all the conversation around wokeness, I agree with Attorney Diallo. You know, how is it defined? What does that mean? To me, it just means like there's a consciousness of things that are going on. And for someone to say that they're woke, what are you awakening to or from? And then if you are woke, what are you doing? Because that means you have an awareness of something. What are you doing with that knowledge? And is it just a term that we're throwing around? I'm sort of lost in that debate. It's like, I don't have time to really sit there and talk to you or debate back and forth whether you're working, what's woke looking like. I'd rather see, you know, give me my numbers. I know what 4.7% looks like. And I know where I want to go with the numbers. But I can't get pulled down into that type of debate going back and forth. Because usually you're coming in that debate with a position, you're not coming with an open mind. So let me set the table a different way and work with something that has an issue, and we can work towards some resolutions.
So the next question also comes from the audience, and it's directed at Lillian Diallo. What are some examples of microaggressions that you want the young women in the room to avoid?
Okay. So, my goodness, microaggressions. You look so nice right now. What did I look like 2 days ago, right?
Or your hair.
Right. Oh, your hair. I love what you do with your hair. Listen, I told my husband, you never know who you're going to come home to. I might have braids one day, straight, apple puffs, whatever, right? So there are tons of ways that people are so aggressive to us, right? And when I say aggressive, it's just not, sometimes it might be the court officer that goes, hey girlfriend, where do we get this from? I mean, so you have to understand what it is. Sometimes you can reteach, sometimes you can ignore, and sometimes you have to address it, right? But listen, there are going to be times of microaggressions and macroaggressions and aggressive-aggressive and passive-aggressive. Find your one. Find your ace. And you have that backbone, and call. We are always available, every last one of us, right? And I mean that. Do you know how many people email me and call me? If we can help you address an issue because you're students, you're younger, I'm not, right? You know, if we can help you, we will. An example of the day. Today, I started out at 36. Then I'm at Frank Murphy. Then I leave from there and I go up to Ann Arbor. Then I get a call, can you do this in federal court? Craft your trade. You understand? You work on you. You work on your goodness. You work on knowing what you know. Everything else will follow. But if you need us, please, do not hesitate, because I have daughters and a son. I see it always. Right? I see sometimes we can do, as women or men, they will do little things to say, hey, he did this to me, he said that, because you can't see past your moment. We're not frivolous creatures, do you understand? We are, I think, the strongest things on this planet, because we give birth. But never mind that, right? Use your resources and use your voice, and know when to use your voice. I figured out a long time ago, just like we have rules as lawyers, they have rules as well. So either we all gonna follow the rules, or we're not. And I think we want lawful as opposed to lawless, right? So choose lawful, okay? And don't mess with certain people, because they'll come back at you. Let us know, please, if you're having a problem. We love y'all. I mean, I do. I'm serious. Black, white, orange, blue, and some of y'all don't even like me, and I may not like you, but I love you. And I'm not going to let anybody take advantage of anyone. I stand in the gap. I stand for those that have no voice, right? That's me. I love y'all. Help you.
Thank you, thank you.
What do you do when those in positions of power, judge, an administrator, or another individual manager, you go to them for a complaint, an issue, and they disregard or deny that it even occurred? What is your response as relief?
All right, just for clarity, is the question, they denied that the incident occurred, or that they denied that the incident was discriminatory?
Well, either, however you want to work it out.
Okay.
And thank you, Judge Richard Bernstein, for coming today.
Oh, thank you.
So,
So if I was complaining to a person of power that I felt that I was discriminated against and they didn't take me seriously, and this has happened to me, I think that rather than trying to argue with somebody on the spot that yes, it was discriminatory, yes, this was absolutely because I'm a brown woman, or whatever I feel is the reason at the time, what I have historically tried to do in a work relationship is try to educate that person a little bit at a time over time. And I have been able to get to a point where somebody has learned a lot from the end of a relationship with me. By the time I get to the end of the work relationship, maybe they're seeing things differently. They're learning from my experiences, bringing things to their attention. I will say, when I was when I did a lot of labor and employment law, and I would tell people that they had to report these things to HR, they would have to follow these procedures. People would get upset. HR's not going to do anything. They're not going to believe me. They're not, and I would have to tell them, like, look, it's not always about whether HR believes you, even though they are supposed to do something, they may not. It's more about making a record for yourself in the event that you do have to take action moving forward, right? It's more about protecting yourself and putting those reasons on the record so that HR cannot later come back and say, we had no idea that this was happening, or that you felt this way, or that you were being treated this way here.
great. That's a great answer.
So,
A little bit louder now.
so if you have a complaint and you're taking it somewhere to be addressed, and you're taking it to the point where there should be a response, usually that's only step one. So that person didn't agree, or their findings didn't show X, Y, and Z. If there's an investigation and you read the report and you're satisfied, okay, that's a thorough investigation, I'm done, you let it rest. If not, you figure out what's the next step. Who do I bring it to? And then sometimes you may even be bringing it outside of the process. Maybe it's not something that a court administrator is seeing. I need to take it to the regional office. Maybe the regional office doesn't see it. Maybe I'm taking it back to my bar association. Do you realize what this issue is? Can you help us put this on the radar so people understand the issue and to address it? Again, it's figuring out where those resources are and networking and where that community is to ensure that the issue gets properly looked at and addressed. And sometimes maybe you bring it and it doesn't resolve in your favor. But once the issue is out there, at least the issue is out there, so when someone else brings it, they got some starting point other than starting from ground zero. So you continue to build upon it.
I have my own law firm since 11 for a reason, and I'll go to the chief judge, right? So if there's an issue that really impacts someone, right, I will go to the chief judge. And normally we can mesh it out, right? You have to have a reputation that's not frivolous though, right? So if I'm coming to you, Chief Judge, there is a real issue, and can we work it out? Sometimes it can be, sometimes it can't be, but for the most part I found that we've always been able to resolve certain issues. Just understand that they are judges, but they are human beings, and they may have whatever biases they may have or not. But if you can talk through it, right? If you can talk past the moment where color, race, or being a woman, where that may be involved, because I'm a woman and I'm black, right? You can see that, okay? We can talk it out. Normally, that's what we do. I have no problem. I was in the chief judge's office today. Excuse me, are you in here? But he wasn't, right? And it's an issue, it's a small issue. But you have to make sure you open your mouth and talk about it, right? Because what happens in the dark? Anything in the world. If you don't make an issue, out of things that you know is an issue, it'll keep happening. So, find your voice.
And not being afraid of having that conversation.
Yeah.
Whether or not it might impact your client, some things have to be said.
But see, I know, and that's something you said, but I'm gonna tell you, listen, I know I'm in the top 10% in this country in trying cases, right? Sometimes you just gotta go through it, right? And if you think you're going to impact my client, what did I just tell everybody? Just like I have rules, you do too. You understand? You're not just gonna make us the whipping people, right? Because that's what you want, because of whatever your prior perception might be, right? So everybody has rules, okay? Thank you.
All right. We do have another question out of the audience. How many times have you heard from opposing counsel? Never in my 30 years. Or 10, or 20 minutes.
Just last week, or ever?
So for anyone on this panel, and I guess the idea is, you know, statements, small statements that sort of mean you're on the outside, you're doing something different or unusual or incorrect.
Well, golly, if we're on the outside like that, why are we making such great headway? Why is my trial record against you, right, better than yours, right? So, I mean, don't let them occupy that space in your head. Once again, who sets the rules, everybody, right? And so if I have to go by the rules you try to impose on me, then you won. We gotta go all the way down. You don't do that over here. Lillian Diallo is Lillian Diallo, right? And I'm in the room and I'm gonna do everything I can, but who makes the rules? And who benefits from the oppression of a people?
So I think the version that I hear most often, since I'm not with opposing counsel, is we've always done things this way. And it's like, yeah, you probably have. Now let's look at it another way, and let's see if we can get it right this time.
Okay, that's a good that's great.
Sure. So I will sometimes get, you know, like, exactly like you said, like, I find this particular motion odd. I've never seen a motion like this before. And on the flip side of it, I still will get, you speak English very well. I mean, thank you, I guess, right? But the one that I guess kind of microaggression that's a little bit humorous to me is when somebody, usually a white male opposing counsel, will say, "Oh, Saida, that's such a beautiful name." Well, Saida is actually the feminine version of my dad's name. So I always tell him, "Oh, thanks, it's my dad's name." My dad's name and an A at the end of it.
All right. Okay, I'm going to move to a question for other people in the room who may not be lawyers. What should a person do if they believe they are a victim of racism or sexism in the courtroom? And that could be as a defendant, as a visitor, as a lawyer, as a law student. So how would any of you answer that question in terms of maybe providing some tools for individuals if they are in a courtroom and experience something, regardless of whether they're in the law?
So each profession has an agency that you can bring your complaint to. You can bring your complaint inside of the courthouse to the court administrator. Most people won't get to the chief judge if they're just John Q. Public, but you can bring it to the court administrator's office. You know, say what the complaint is, set it forth. The court administrator will then go ahead and launch an investigation and respond to you. If you're in the family division and it's friend of the court related, you can file a friend of the court grievance, and the friend of the court has an obligation to respond to that. If it's treatment that you're receiving by an attorney who is employed by the court system, you go to the Attorney Grievance Commission. If it's a complaint that's involving the judge, you have the JTC. And oftentimes, John Q. Public or Jane Q. Public doesn't know those remedies exist. But like I said, you can start with what the incident was and bring it to the court administrator's office.
I don't know. I mean, it's not an easy fix, right? When you're in rooms and you know they're treating your client different because of race, right? I was in West Michigan. I promise you what they did, what happened up there should not have happened. But they pride themselves on oppressing black people, right? They say you shouldn't even be up there. I'm like, Grandma, it's up here, but that's okay, right? And certain colleges, oh, Calvin College, if you go there, we're going to give you a break, right? Here. And it's a heavy burden sometimes because what must you have to do? You have to fight. You have to try to fight for equality. This is 2023, right? People have gotten over so long on the oppression of people that look like me. They think it's the right way to do. It's just not. And we need to have those conversations, right? We need to stop making it always, it's over there, they're this, they're this. I can have a conversation with a black person or a white person if it's going to help all people. It's about all people, do you understand? So when people are saying, this is this, it's 2023 and we have work to do. And this is still mostly a white male profession. And they will try to bump you every now and again with, oh, look at you. You look nice today. Hey, what about that skirt? Don't worry about what I have on. What do you have on? Did you have a mirror in your house? That's how you stop some of that stuff. You understand? I'm telling you, these are tools in my toolbox. So, 2023, there you go.
I like those tools. And this is one of the general questions. Well, you kind of actually addressed it in regards to preventive measures. Those would be preventive, those would be proactive.
Right.
Is there any preventive measures that, just in regards to carrying yourself or addressing, coming in, and is there anything that's preventive?
So it sounds like you're asking, is there some way that I'm supposed to diminish who I am to avoid conflict?
Never diminish, but in regards to, and these are pretty scripted.
Right. I'm trying to process. Maybe the question is, are there things that women and minorities can do before they even enter a courtroom? Which the answer might be as simple as no. No. Because socially, society-wise,
It doesn't matter.
we can't control how other people perceive us.
I don't know if there's anything that you're responsible for doing other than to show up and do the work that you're there to do. Why would a man have to worry about that? So I don't think no.
I do want to add something though, and I agree with these comments that no, there is nothing that anybody should have to do when they themselves are on the receiving end of discrimination, but I want to say that this is a really good point to talk about how allyship is important, right? Like, this is where it's important to be an upstander if you see somebody who is experiencing racism or sexism, and you are not a member of the group that's being targeted. I think that's when it's really important. You cannot make people have to stand up for themselves all the time. If you are seeing somebody who is experiencing racism and sexism and you are in a position of privilege where you'll never have to experience that, that's where I think allyship has its place. That's where it's important for you to educate the person doing the abusive behavior.
Right. How would you educate someone doing abusive behavior in court?
Oh, look, and they have transcripts, everybody. Everything in a courtroom is recorded. I promise you, the first time I said, can I have that transcript? The judge came and found me, right? And because remember, they're just people like we're people. I can be wrong, right? You can be wrong. But we have to stop with this God complex, right? And I hate to say it, but I think the only thing that will stop that is fear. That's, you understand, fear. That's it. Fear of the opponent. Fear of, is this one I can do this to or not? That's the only thing, and that's kind of Republican, by the way.
That makes sense?
Yes. You have
I didn't get to that one yet. I don't come from the place of that I need to put fear into you. I come from the perspective that if I can, I'm going to try to call you in, and I would take the time to educate you, but it's not my responsibility to educate you. I've made a choice that I'm going to do that. And everybody's not necessarily going to make that choice. They'll find another way in which to address it, but that would be my starting point.
And everybody doesn't receive it, right?
Oh, no.
Everybody doesn't receive
No.
education.
Correct.
In the same way. Okay. So are there any other questions from the audience?
This has been an amazing panel and program. So let's thank the panelists again. I want to thank our distinguished guests, the judges, the students, the alum for being here and having this dialogue. It's not an easy conversation to have. I think, but we're never gonna make change unless we have these dialogues with each other and people feel comfortable. Like I teach over at EMU. I teach a class on law and the African American experience, and I have African American students, I have white students, and I'm like, look, y'all, we gotta be able to talk. You gotta feel comfortable. Bring it on, talk. Some people have relatives that are Trumpsters, and they're like, oh, I don't want to talk. No, talk about it. If we don't talk about it, we're never gonna make change. So I think it's just, we talk about a safe space. Lynda, I used to work at the Michigan Children's Law Center, and so I have I love advocating for children. I still advocate for children, and we want to make sure that they feel like we've had this theme about bullying. They get bullied. I do educational advocacy for children, and I'm like, with that thinking in mind, is like, if I get bullied, I'm like, oh, I gotta speak up, because I'm setting an example for children out there. There are children that are being bullied, and we want to say to the children, when you're being bullied, speak up. Ask a teacher, ask an adult, because you're never going to make change if you don't do that. And so I'm glad you all came out here for this. We're going to do a group photo with the board and the panel, and then for those of you that are able to stay, feel free to stay and come and talk to the panelists or the board members. This is our first event that we've had since October. We've been doing a lot of things virtually. We will continue to be meeting virtually till June, so come to our website, blackwomenlawyers.org. You can send us an email at bwlammichigan@gmail.com. We're planning an event, a Meet the Judges event. We do expungement workshops. I do programs on what to do and stop by the police. I was just talking to some of the students EMU about pathways to law school. So I'm just glad that you guys all took your time to come out, because I know everybody's working and we got a lot going on. But just be safe, and everybody has a part to play. Like I'm looking, you look at the news, you see what happened in Tennessee with those the state representatives, the two African American men and the one woman, Gloria Johnson. Everybody has their role to play, whether you're going to be whether you're a law student, a lawyer, a family member, a relative. I just feel like we all have our part to play, and it's just a matter, for me, it's about prayer, meditation, and just asking God, like, what is it to do? What am I to do? How am I to help in this situation? So again, thank you, and everybody be safe.